Welcome everybody to a Delco Nerd Network Hot Take. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen a hot take before, well, it's where a few friends get in a basement. We'd like to give our thoughts, give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a movie, and that movie is Deadpool and Wolverine. Here to discuss, as always, the Merc with the mic, Chris Trio.
Gooch, I hope you're ready to give maximum effort on this hot take.
I am. I'm ready to give maximum effort. Do I ever not bring maximum effort?
I never said that. I think you're projecting a little bit, but it's okay. No, but no, absolutely.
Now I think there's a problem.
Yeah, now I actually do. Now that you mention it. Yeah, dude, Deadpool numero trace, Deadpool 3. Is it? Yeah. Oh, it's Deadpool and Wolverine, of course.
But yeah, it is Deadpool 3.
Yeah, but for all intents and purposes, I did get to watch Deadpool 1 the other night. I won't spend too much time here, but I forgot how funny of a movie that is. But anyways, it was really nice to get back to the character. Gooch, what did you think of Deadpool and Wolverine?
It was awesome. I fucking love this movie for everything that it is. I think one of the things we were talking about is how easily it could have gone off the rails into Member Berry City. I'm like fucking up all my words today.
It's all right.
It's
Friday.
Berry
we don't usually record
City.
On a Friday,
yeah.
And I feel like that just kind of goes with the mojo.
But yeah, like it could have been like cameos left and right, and I think there was a lot of restraint held. There are a lot of cameos. Not a lot of them are given like a serious amount of time, and those cameos don't dilute what's going on in the film.
Not at all.
I really enjoyed the plot. I like what they did with Wolverine. I like what they did with the TVA. I like what they did with Deadpool. I don't really think there was a negative thing about this movie for me at all. Maybe before I saw the movie, I was talking about in our Discord, which you can join in the description, that I was gonna be upset if this wasn't gonna, redo the MCU, because that's what we were all like. I think that was the big talk of this movie, right? Like, what's Deadpool and Wolverine gonna do to the MCU at large? Well, guess what, folks? Spoilers: the MCU is still in fucking shambles. This movie doesn't do anything to the wider MCU, and I don't really care. I was wrong. I don't care that this didn't
do you know why,
do anything.
Because they made a good movie.
Go ahead. Go for it.
But anyways, yeah, no, I think you're right. I think this could have been that cameo-induced nightmare that we were all fearing, and it could have just been cameo after cameo after cameo, and not really have much to it aside from nostalgia. And I think that they steered well clear of that with what they chose to go with. I think there's some really funny and interesting reveals in this when it comes to those cameos.
Absolutely.
There's one especially that completely was a bait and switch that worked very well for me.
Yeah.
I think the chemistry between Wade and Logan could not be more perfect.
Right.
They absolutely carry
the
the film.
What's weird?
In a good way.
I feel like they have been on screen before.
I know, but they haven't.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Like,
And
I think there's just been so much talk of it.
And that speaks to, I think, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's kind of relationship in real life and how they really wanted to do this. And we were talking in the Discord before we actually started today, and you were saying, like, I can't remember, someone was saying, like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like how they got Wolverine back for this. It does seem like Hugh Jackman came back.
I was saying that Ryan Reynolds, I feel like had a
absolutely
part in
instrumental. I would
Hugh
even
Jackman
say
back because I think that was a worry. Logan was such a strong outing for Hugh as the Wolverine, and it was like, now we're bringing him back,
right?
But it gives him a second outing that's different from Logan. I wouldn't say better, but like a different, more.
Totally different flavor.
Yeah, a different kind of outing, and I think it complements both really well.
Yeah, I think Logan's definitely much more of a character study. Like one of the most character study
It's
heavy,
an outing
like,
for the character. Deadpool and Wolverine is like an outing for us in
a way, and I think
as like the fandom, and like it's a bit different. Yeah.
And not to take away from the character development in this, which I think is actually pretty well done. And I think that the only negative I really have for the movie, if you twisted my arm and made me think of one, is that if you start pulling on some of the narrative threads, it might come apart a little bit.
Like the TVA is a bit odd. Like what's going on with them? And
I think that was actually relatively well explained. It's more comes down to like how
I
the
get
timelines,
Paradox, but like what the TVA at large, what's their goal is, from Loki season 2, what's going on with them? Like what's their MO? Like we don't really know.
Because I think Loki didn't create one. Say, if I remember the end of Loki correctly, he didn't make like one singular timeline again. He almost made like a web of timelines, right? When he's sitting in the throne.
Right.
Which I guess the idea is now there are all these extra timelines that do exist, and they apparently that's okay. And they apparently just start to fade away when their anchor character dies. That's a new piece of information that we get.
Right. I'm like, is that a Nexus being? Like,
so
that's
the
what
thing
I thought.
That's the narrative thread I feel like you could
What's
kind of
the
start
difference?
pulling at and being like, well, what's going on here
Yeah.
exactly and stuff like that. But I think this movie overall keeps you engaged and keeps you interested enough and is consistent enough to not make me sit there and really like be like, well, wait, what about this, that, and the other?
And a way I think it does engage you is right at the beginning, you know, it's like it tiptoes around like, remember Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we remember that. And it was good, but like let's have our fun with it. And you know, Deadpool is looking for Logan, and we go back to the last known Logan we had, digs him up, and he's dead.
Which is interesting that confirmed they were in the same universe for sure. Like, I didn't expect that necessarily.
He looked for his Wolverine.
Yeah.
He's dead in the ground. Adamantium skeleton, and then we get our fight scene to Bye 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 by NSYNC, and TVA members are getting obliterated by Deadpool
Absolutely
using
obliterated.
Wolverine's skeleton
Adamantium
and his claws.
Yeah.
And man, I'm just like, so refreshing to watch people just get absolutely obliterated in a Marvel movie. Like it felt like, I'm like, we've seen this kind of violence before, but you know, I just felt like, yeah, I want more of this. And unfortunately, like, I feel like it's kind of weird, right? Because this movie's already broken a record for Thursday night. We're recording this on a Friday, so we haven't seen the weekend box office yet, but it's doing well. So you think because this is doing well, you know, any studio would be like, we need to do something like this again. But like everything points to Marvel probably not doing that.
Well, I mean, Feige did just say recently Blade, an R-rated rating is given on that or something. So I do think that there are certain things that they can explore more of this. I think Deadpool does allow you to lend more towards that almost Tarantino level of violence, like wacky, insane violence, where
hyper violent.
It's not the same as like
Logan.
The Punisher or even Logan, where like that feels like really real violence, where this feels more like this is just wild and wacky, and he's crushing people's skulls with Logan's skulls, and he's using his femur and like jerking off the femur. Like it's so stupid.
Shoves
and
his
wild.
claws like up a dude's ass. It's a different kind of violence. You're right,
for sure.
But yeah, like you know, I don't even know what the runtime was.
2 hours 7 minutes. I looked it up before I got there.
It felt long. I think I was just really engaged.
I think the first 5 minutes drug a tiny bit for like until we get to the like, oh, the TVA's here and we're going. It was a little bit.
Yeah, I never questioned like the length. I felt like it was a meaty movie, and the fact that it was 2 hours is pretty interesting because I did not. I felt like it was an over, like, you know, like a 2:30.
Absolutely, and
just from the feeling.
100%. It made it felt a little bit longer. I will say, to speak to what you're saying about how well this is doing, it is cool to see people get back out for these movies, especially because I do think there is an exception to the Marvel rule right now.
Right.
Like I think the normie, it sucks because Marvel really has lost, I think, the normie in a lot of ways.
And this movie is not a normie movie.
But it is. I think it is.
It is and it isn't. And
I think these are the people who were here. They were like, man, you got one, the people who love Marvel coming to see this. You got two, the people who love Deadpool, who aren't necessarily all Marvel people that are going to see every MCU movie. And then you just got the normies who are a little bit disinterested that really did love Deadpool and are ready to come back for this, especially when you get Logan. One of Kathy's friends was telling me when we were in there was like, I don't really care about the MCU that much anymore, to be honest, but like this got me out again. And I'm like, I do think that's a big thing for everyone.
And that's why I bought 9 tickets. Yeah. I filled a row. Like
that was really cool having the entire row.
We don't do that ever.
It's been a while. There was one movie somewhat recently where I feel like we had a bit of a
No Way Home, Batman, The Batman, Endgame,
No Way Home
obviously.
might have been the last one. Is it really No Way Home? I guess it might have been.
Maybe the Batman.
Was that after No Way Home? I guess it
so.
was. See, because I saw that early, remember? So I wasn't with the crew on that one.
It was, going back to your theater point, like the theater was packed last night.
The fucking parking lot was full.
Haven't seen that since Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Right.
You know, it's been a while since I feel like we had, maybe Dune.
For sure. Oh, absolutely. Dune was another big one. Don't get me wrong, they're not like never happening, but like
it's
they
rare.
don't feel like they're happening as much as they used to, especially
for Thursday nights.
And I will say, pre-Endgame, and we would go to see a Thursday Marvel movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't always like packed to the gills, but there was a healthy crowd in there usually when we would see it.
The status was definitely green.
Definitely way more back there. And even pre-Endgame, there were so many more movies compared to even the TV shows now, which, we can get into a whole thing on that. But let's start getting into some of the spoilers here on the cameos, if that's okay.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the cameos, just your point, because you were talking. I made a comment about it not being for the normies. Spoilers. There's a lot of cameos. I mean, we saw the sort of like the Lady Deathstrike and the Pyro cameos in there, but we get some like really big cameos. Chris Evans comes back, and we get you're talking about the bait and switch. We think it's Captain America. It's fucking Johnny Storm.
You know what sells that so well? It's that he does the superhero landing. Because he landed, you see him, and he's all cloaked up, and you're like, oh, who is this? And then he comes down and does the classic landing, and even Deadpool
like I heard him, I'm
it.
like, that's Chris Evans.
And then he pulls off his thing, and you're like, oh my god, it's Cap. And at first I was like, okay, I guess bring him back for this. But then the moment when he reveals, and he's like, all right, yeah, you want to fucking fight? And he goes, flame on! the whole fucking theater was like, ah! It was really good.
Yeah,
it was
like
a great
hearing
reveal.
Chris Evans curse, use like the cursing. Also, I just felt it just like breathed new life into Marvel shit. I don't know what it was, and maybe because this like the other Deadpool movies were Fox movies.
And by the way, this still feels squarely like a Fox movie too. Like they have the MCU references and him coming to the TVA and all that, but like they don't really focus
besides
at all.
Chris Evans.
And like you get the moment with like when you see Thor on the TV, and Chris Evans is not even playing the one that he is in the Marvel universe. He's playing the guy he played in the Fox universe. So I think it was a really smart move to fully pull from Fox and not really start giving all these random variants. I mean, dude, I think they had so much just reservation in a good way with that first Wolverine montage when he's trying to find like the Wolverine that he needs to help him.
I mean, we like, get the comic accurate height. Like that was fucking hilarious.
I was like, man, would he actually be that tall if he was comic accurate? That's so funny.
We get like a World War Hulk one, and there's like a few others that, but like
the gray and yellow suit, which by the way, they should have had that on the whole time. It looks so good.
Yeah, like we don't. It's not like we get like all these
patches.
Henry Cavill as fucking Wolverine.
Who I heard that?
So it was true.
Yeah,
it was true. That was a rumor.
That was a rumor,
and everyone thought it was like obviously like he would be playing
bullshit. But
no, not bullshit, but that he would actually be playing Wolverine.
It is interesting,
and he was. It was just as a joke.
Yeah, it was a quick variant. I think he'll be back in like a full-on role of some kind soon. Mm-hmm. But that was one that I truly didn't see coming at all. Like, there's a few that in my mind, if you made me sit down and think of like what's going to come up in this movie, like Gambit, but like as us people, like I made a joke in the chat.
I didn't expect Elektra.
I heard a rumor about, sadly, so I kind of
Blade.
knew that.
I mean, like Blade is probably an obvious one since like they're doing another Blade and Wesley Snipes is out of jail, from tax evasion. But like, and like all those got cheers, especially Blade. But like when fucking Channing Tatum came out as Gambit, like I don't think anyone, like a lot of people in our theater got that.
I said
that
jokingly
was wild
on our Discord. I'm like, us as film guys, and by film guys I just mean guys who are paying attention to movies being made and like the rumors and bullshit like that. Like we had been hearing about that for years.
6 years?
But like as a normal person that's going to see the MCU and like that's like part of the normal crowd, they have no idea what any type of connection that is. They were just like, oh, cool, Gambit. And I do love how he went with the Creole accent and everything. He sounded pretty great. Seeing Gambit's powers in an R-rated movie especially was very cool. His outfit, I think, was intentionally a bit like plasticky and over the top because his like suit was almost a bit
Elektra
rubbery.
And Blade look pretty grounded for all intents and purposes, and that's Jennifer Gardner, right? Yeah.
Which they absolutely reached out to Ben Affleck and he was just like, no. He's like, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore.
And they're like, Punisher, and they're like, which one? Like what Punisher
which is a great
are you
joke,
talking about? Yeah, Deadpool making all the jokes, and even like, and Deadpool's gone, and he's like, oh. And then Elektra's like, yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. And even the Blade one really surprised me too, because you probably know about this, but like they on the set of Blade 3, him and Ryan Reynolds did not get along.
I'm surprised that he didn't obligatory.
Obligatory?
There wasn't obligatory like Hey, from Blade Trinity. Like, they didn't make
Well, did you hear him? Well, there was one joke he said. He's like, oh, wow. He made a joke about how he's surprised he actually came back because
right, but
it
wasn't like elongated. Yeah, it was
No,
like quick. Yeah, like I was like, I'm like Ryan Reynolds is in Blade Trinity. Like,
right. But and that was the quick reference. But I'm trying to think. And then you get X-23 rolling in.
Marvel, I think, really needs to approach trailers differently. Less is more. I didn't like the fact that Daphne Keane as X-23 was in that last trailer, and I didn't even watch the trailer, and I got spoiled on that.
Dude, it was everywhere. There was no way you weren't going, unless you were like completely off the internet. There was no way you weren't going to see that.
Actually, a negative, I don't think they did X-23 enough. She was there. She had a few action scenes, but like not a lot. I mean, her and Wolverine got like a campfire moment. And she says a few lines. Like I had thought at one point like her comics were gonna come out of her bag,
right?
Or something, and he was gonna see the comics that she had in Logan that she was reading, and what's that great line? All of it happened, and not as accurate as like they were depicting.
Yeah, he's like that's not exactly how it happened. This is all bullshit.
Half of it happened, and not.
I did really like that scene when he. It's funny. We've wanted to see Wolverine in this suit that he's wearing in this film.
The mask.
For the last 20 years.
I was like, what's he doing?
I know. It's so good. And it's taken forever, and I think that they did a really interesting thing by making it a plot point in this. Because Deadpool keeps going like, why? Like, who got you in this fucking suit? Are you crazy?
Right, we're finally seeing it. Like,
and then but then by the end you get to talk. He gets to talking to X-23 at the campfire, and he was like talking about how his X-Men would always bug him to wear it. Scott would bug the shit out of him. He's like, I never wanted to wear it because I didn't want to make them think that I wanted to be there. And it was like a really great moment. Now he's like, now I only wear it, but I wear it all the time now because it's all I got left of them. And it's funny because when they reveal what like he did, like what happened at first, I was like, what's going on? Because this is apparently the worst Wolverine who did something very terrible in his universe, which seemed to be that somehow a bunch of like anti-mutant folks like went to the X-Mansion and killed all the X-Men. I'm assuming with some type of technology. It's not just like people charging.
I mean, like,
they don't really
obviously they didn't fight back, clearly.
Yeah, like, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
They just didn't fight back.
Yeah, they just let it happen, and then...
I mean,
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
It's an interesting situation, how they just let that happen. Well, like, there's kids there.
And I also... See, that leads me to believe, though, that they showed up with, like, some type of evening the field technology, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you're like, and I was like, okay, what's that? But then he talks about after, he's like, well, after they died, I started killing, and I wouldn't stop killing. So I guess implying, obviously, that he just kind of went on this rampage.
And it kind of enforced that
the mutants suck.
Right.
And he really fucked up. And his kind of growth throughout this movie, I think, is really well earned. And I think it could have been bullshit. I really do.
Yeah, but like I like how they don't like introduce us to Wolverine. He just kind of appears and we're going. And like they're good. They know who each other is, right. I guess. Like obviously Wolverine doesn't know who Deadpool is, but he learns kind of quickly. We get like 3 or 4 fights between them.
Yeah.
And they were awesome, really good. Probably not set pieces, but action scenes where they're just fighting to fight each other.
Right.
Like when they first get in the void, they're like, "Why the fuck are we here?"
The 20th Century Fox logo on
right,
them,
right. Which we saw a lot of leaks of that.
Right.
That was pre-strike.
Right.
Yeah. I remember. I was telling
those
Kathy
were like some of the first
me,
set
I was
photos.
like, this was all leaked. Like we saw a lot of this.
It is weird how,
and then that's when we get Johnny Storm, and then we get introduced to Cassandra Nova.
I really liked his suit, by the way.
Who's like our primary villain, Paradox being like the secondary villain.
It's weird because they kind of switch roles for like a few moments there for me almost, because by the end of her storyline, once they escape the void, you almost think that she's kind of done with the story. Like they're like, oh, we've moved past, but then she interrogates Pyro, and
so
and
she is
like,
a sling ring, and that's how she's able to get them out of the void. Who is she talking about? It's not Doctor Strange.
She said some type of street magician of some kind. I don't know. I think it is supposed to be like a variant of Doctor Strange that came through.
I kind of figured like maybe it is some sorcerer from Carmitage, or maybe who I thought, like Ned Leeds. Like, because he has the sling ring and he's an idiot, so he would lose it.
That is true.
I didn't know
it's
definitely not Doctor Strange. Right?
I didn't know the sling rings were made for the movies. I thought those were part of the comic books, but apparently he can just teleport in the comics.
Oh yeah,
which makes sense, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, I like that actor a lot who played her. I can't remember her name
Dude,
off the
the
top of my head.
effects for her putting her hands in people's face was like
Unsettling.
pretty tough to watch.
Yeah.
I was like, it's like not even that complicated of a looking of an effect.
It's not.
Like, it's just gross. Like, her hand is just coming through the face, like, or the faces.
It's like melding through. It's severely
and her
unpleasant.
like flicking off Johnny Storm's skin, and then his body just like falls apart. It's like, holy shit.
That is Emma Corrin playing.
But
Cassandra
again, all the violence so refreshing. I mean, like watching like Pyro and like Lady Deathstrike and like some Juggernaut just get fucking killed.
Yeah,
great. Like absolutely fantastic.
I'm
surprised they didn't do the Juggernaut line. And like him.
See, but that's where I think
like
they
some
had
restraint,
some fucking restraint. Yeah, like I can't give them enough credit.
I'm waiting for Blade to go like, who are you?
Well, but
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
We did get one with Blade though when he's like, people are still skating up ice. Like, I can't remember what the line is. Like, I think he says a not PC word in the original.
He's like, wait, what? Yeah, he's like, what?
Guys skating up ice hills, but he doesn't say guys. I don't think. At least I might be right.
Really?
I maybe not. Is that movie rated R?
Yeah.
He might say the other word. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't catch that. I'd be
No,
interested.
not in this movie. In Blade, when he originally says the line.
What's the retarded line that he says?
He says, "I thought you were retired." He's like, "I'm not retarded."
It was
Pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
Dude, I think retarded's coming back.
I don't know. We'll see. Let's not say too much on this. We'll get going. But
it's like coming back.
I thought
in a
that
weird way.
joke was. There was a few really good
like that was
jokes
great.
like that. Yeah.
I love the deprecation of the MCU. The fact that they were willing to write in like, oh, like Wolverine, you're coming in at a low point. Like, just hilarious. Love to hear it.
I think it works. I think you can start to, and I think it does in this, and I don't think it goes overboard. I think you can start to approach like a hey guys, we get it, we're one of you, all right? And it's like, no, you're not. You're the movie theater. Let's relax. So we know if you know all this, then what are you doing? But it is also Ryan Reynolds.
I'm
making
curious
fun of
to
it.
see like who wrote this. I mean, we were talking about the director.
I think it has like 5 writers
in our Discord, but I'm like, is this the main? Is this the Marvel Machine writers? Like, who wrote this?
I think this is the Deadpool, right? So okay, it has a lot of writers on it.
Yeah, you would have to think.
So
right?
we got Sean Levy, Zeb Wells, who I don't know what else he's done, Paul Wernick,
Yeah, Sean
Rhett
Levy was
Reese,
the director,
and Ryan Reynolds.
We were talking about he did Free Guy and Real Steel.
Yeah. Liar, liar.
Yeah, like I'm like I like didn't recognize the name. I'm like, who is this random guy?
Yeah.
But I'm like, not really that random. So good.
No,
pick
it makes
for
total
director.
sense. Absolutely, and I think
Somebody Hugh and Ryan has worked with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ryan must have gave in the card for him.
I don't want to demean anyone, especially directors.
Demean them.
But I
Say it.
think that the fact that this whole trilogy is 3 different directors and still has a very consistent tone and feel
Ryan Reynolds.
shows you that, Ryan Reynolds is really the key here. Not to say, I can't remember who Tim Miller did the first one.
Yeah.
Who is a great director.
And
He's
him
done some
leaving
really
was a
cool
big deal,
stuff.
remember
Him
that?
leaving was a big deal. There was all this talk about it was because of cable or whatever, casting choices and things like that. So I don't want to take that away from him because I think he had a small ass budget on that first film and they stretched it far and wide, and that first movie still holds up very well. It is just interesting to see how well, like I said, tonally and just story-wise, it is held up.
I was
throughout these
really
3.
thinking about like Deadpool and the 3 movies we got and how hard that first one hit, and how the second one, 2016, the first one comes out, 2018, Deadpool 2 comes out, and it doesn't hit hard. I feel like people like it.
I mean, I think it did very well.
It doesn't. I don't feel like it's not like I think you ask which one's better, Deadpool 1 or 2. I think most people are giving you the 1.
And I think that's sequel syndrome in general. Usually,
right.
Yeah.
I think it's not just sequel syndrome, but also it's so close. And now we go from 2018 to 2024.
Completely agree.
We've had a lot of time to miss Deadpool. And, the jokes are largely within the same tier, meta jokes. I think we get a lot of more like non-PC jokes, which is great.
Sure.
That humor's kind of like, they said retarded in a movie,
Yeah.
That's interesting. And
Definitely.
So So, and I think like it hit again, and I think the question is, and I'm like maybe jumping the gun a little bit here, but like, do they bring Deadpool back? Is Ryan Reynolds going to take another 6-7 year break? And I think bringing him back again so soon, we will get that Deadpool 2. I just had this, and I don't miss it yet.
I think they will both be back 100%.
I don't think Hugh Jackman's going to be
The
back.
way that they've talked about all this, I think 110%.
You know, we get a lot of jokes of like, Marvel gave you the bag.
You're fucking 90.
You're going to be doing it till you're 90, and then at the end, it is like, see you again. Probably not.
But then he hangs around. See, I think he's definitely hanging out. I think they're both coming back.
He's not going to get a. Sure.
That's what I think.
He's not going to get a movie. He's not going to be a major part in a movie. But I think like the Secret Wars thing or coming back as a cameo of some sort is not out of the realm of possibility.
Right. And I still, it's up in the air who's going to direct this next Marvel movie or this next Avengers movie. And I think this seals the deal for Sean Levy. Genuinely, I think that. This shows that he can handle this type of directing job and get the job done. And, because it's funny, there's been
restraint.
And there's been, absolutely. And I think that also comes down to, though, Ryan and his whole team of writers, too. But I'm really interested to see where it goes. There's been this whole back and forth of, like, the Russo brothers, they're supposedly being asked. But hold on, there was also
we saw what happened to Josh Whedon.
Right.
When he came back to do an Avengers. And it was
think,
not good. And then his career went downhill after that.
Yeah, but that's not because of Avengers.
I know, but like,
and I will say, I think Age of Ultron gets a bit more flack than deserved. I still think that's a pretty good Avengers movie, but overall, I do not think that necessarily going back to the Russo brothers is going to get that big swing, just because like they haven't done much since Avengers. They've done movies, but like nothing that really hits them out of the park. No one really, your normies folks don't know them. I mean, most people don't know the directors of the movies they're watching in general. That's just the fact. But unless you're like us, who I don't want to say,
I didn't know
really
who the director was before I saw this movie.
That's what I'm saying. And you're someone who is even more involved than most than 90% of people.
Right, which might say something. I don't know.
No, I think it does. And not necessarily for good or bad. I think it definitely does, though. It's just the way it is. And I think the Russo brothers are they could be hit or miss. Again, it's been a back and forth. There was a report the week before that they were approaching Marvel and being like, we want to come back and direct. This is our pitch.
Because you need help. You're at a low point, right?
Well, no, because I think maybe, but also because they're both they've both done a little bit less, of course. I think even the Russo brothers even less so than Marvel. And they've made some comments about like movie theaters and stuff that I don't really like personally. But I don't know. I think Sean Levy's the way to go here, especially with just how I feel like he has shown restraint. And I don't know how much how much power directors have in the Marvel machine at this point. I don't think it's that much, depending on who you are. I think Sean Levy had more than most of the more recent directors, especially someone on like
he's
Captain
dealing
Marvel.
with a character that they got from an acquisition. It must be kind of different.
I think it's more because he has such a close relationship with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, it seems, and seems to have made some pretty successful movies in his own rights. Whereas like you get the people who did, and I don't want to shit on them because they accepted the job, and I think the Marvels is it's a movie and it works, and it's it's a well put together movie in the respect of it works as a movie, but they don't
debatable.
They don't have like
the panache.
Not even the panache. They aren't given the room to even do it if they wanted to. Even if they did have
the movie's already written for them.
Yeah, and they
just
start
coming in to like literally be the person
that guides
that is called the director to put on the credits.
And I think that's the biggest issue for me. This feels like they actually gave Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy and Hugh Jackman and the writers room to do what they wanted, because this is so separate from the MCU in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Last time I want to do it, I want to go back to Restraint, I just wild how many X-Men cameos we could have had.
Like that none of the normies. Like I was expecting a Jean. I was maybe a Storm.
Right. Nobody from the First Class stuff. Nobody. None of them. No Professor X. No Magneto. I mean, we get the where's Magneto? Like the helmet, and and he's like, he died. Fuck.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. We get them. We get a lot of Cassandra Nova talks about how she's Charles Xavier's twin, and her origin story. She talks about it, and Charles and Magneto and other characters are brought up. Scott, they're brought up like they exist, but we don't actually see them. And again, we could have just actually saw them, and maybe it would have been overload.
I see another universe in which this movie has a full flashback of Wolverine fucking up at the X Mansion and going crazy, which we don't need. You know what I mean? Like there's and
Yeah,
like you
I
see
was
almost
waiting,
every
like Deadpool's like
he's like
wait for the third act flashback. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like I can see that actually being a reality, but
Yeah.
they knew that they didn't.
And I
need
was
it, and
waiting, I'm
having
like,
everyone show up.
Is it going to happen at the camp? Yeah, where he talks about it, and
Yeah.
they didn't.
They didn't. They don't need to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And that could have just been a moment where it's like, oh, hey, Beast. Hey, Gene. Hey, Scott. Hey, you know, like the whole cameo role running down, and they didn't do it.
I think you get some genuine moments with Deadpool as well, where
Absolutely.
like Wolverine lays into him in the Honda Odyssey, which I thought was funny. I wonder how
funny.
much Honda paid for that marketing. Also, I think we have to talk about the plethora of ads they're doing with Deadpool and Wolverine, with like the Heineken ad and like.
Oh, for sure.
They're doing so much product placement outside of it, making commercials and stuff like that. That like, I haven't seen them. We haven't seen a Marvel do this kind of ads in a long time.
It feels like the ad campaign's super ramped for this one, for sure.
Or like
in a lot
something
more
from like
ways
the
than
early
just-
O's. You
Well,
know?
and also
like, just
they
very
could-
different era.
Well,
kinda.
also you got to think a Heineken sponsorship you can't really do on the Marvels, right?
Right.
You can do that with Deadpool,
The
Wolverine, and it
rated
works
R,
very
yeah,
well.
yeah, with Hugh
So
Jackman
I think,
and Ryan Reynolds, two star-studded actors.
I think opening up that R rating and having this be for a more adult audience also opens you up to a lot of different marketing opportunities.
and I hope it opens Marvel up to doing more. Going back to Ryan Reynolds, yeah, like Wolverine kind of laying him out and telling him like you're a joke, like you don't matter, you don't amount to anything, you're not a hero.
Even though like Deadpools are a dime a dozen around here in the void and stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
we get the Deadpools later. But yeah, I felt like they had a lot of good points of like kind of hearkening on the comic book aspect. We get the scene where Deadpool goes to Earth 616 and has an interview with Happy Hogan about joining the Avengers in 2018. I was kind of curious where in the Marvel timeline 2018, like when that actually happens in the canon, like what movies that's near.
I would assume.
I don't remember. It's before Infinity War. It's
Right.
like maybe like near Civil War. Anyway, if you want to look it up.
Yeah, I am.
I thought that was funny. Like, again, then like Happy Hogan goes like, and I feel like this is a moment out of the comics where like Deadpool would go and try out for the Avengers.
Him in the suit's so funny.
And he would get told like, you're not good enough.
Right.
You're not like, oh, I'm doing this for me. I really want this. And Happy Hogan's, well, like the Avengers don't do it for themselves. They
Right.
do it for other people. That was, I thought that was a really interesting scene. One, to have Jon Favreau come back as Happy and kind of do that cameo. But like as bringing it back to, again, the moment in the car where he's getting told that. And it's like, yeah, Deadpool is that character. He's like a C-lister as much as he is like an A-lister. He's not like that kind of character. And he does that in the comics where he tries to be an Avenger and they're like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Well, and
We don't want you here. You can't be an Avenger.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I would even argue that like a lot of the A-list Marvel characters were C-lists before the MCU. Like no one gave a shit about Iron Man before those movies happened.
For sure.
And I think the same thing happens with Deadpool to a degree. Not to say no one gave a shit about Deadpool. Absolutely.
I think a lot
had
of
its
people
fan-
actually liked
I think a lot of
Deadpool
people did, and I
even
think that
before.
shows you in the
I mean,
way
he's a
that
newer character too.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
the way that when the trailer leaked, there was truly this kind of groundswell of support, being like, "Why aren't you making this? Like, what's going on?" When the like Deadpool 1 CGI trailer or like the test footage leaked.
You know I forget what marketing or what magazine does it where they put them in like a lie detector test.
Yeah.
They asked them that question. I think I posted it in Discord. I'm not on Discord a lot on this one. And yeah, so he was like, I don't know if he's ever admitted it,
No, they're saying
but
like
he did like pretty much say
it was
he did
probably
it.
me. Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see this character get such a breath of life, and like I said, a lot of these characters did start in obscurity, and films do help propel them to a new level. And I think having someone as charismatic as Ryan Reynolds behind it helps a lot. And I think, he genuinely cares about the character. He was trying to do this all the way back in X-Men Wolverine when they made him that terrible mouthless monster.
I loved. We get an end credit scene and it's more like a funny one.
Yeah.
But we get like a actual like black with white text credit roll, and then we're seeing like a bunch of behind the scene footage of like all the X-Men movies, all of them, like literally. Fan Four Stick, Fantastic Four, and of course X-Men Origins Wolverine, where Ryan Reynolds is talking about being Deadpool,
Exactly, yeah.
probably for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was really like, wow.
And he talks about that time when they were like, well, we're going to, like, he's like, you're doing it this way. You can't do it this way. And they're like, well, we're going to do it this way with or without you. And he's like, I guess I'll do it because no one else. Yeah, at least
I gotta do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about if he outed. I don't think Deadpool would have ever been made
Think if he what?
if he left.
Oh, yeah, that, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we would have
There's a
never
different
had this
timeline
movie.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I do think that this overall was a really fantastic movie. I'm trying to think of what else
We didn't talk about Nice Pool and Dog Pool.
Oh, just funny little moments. I thought it was funny that Nice Pool doesn't regenerate because, like, he obviously didn't go through the mutation. He's just the best
I wonder where
one.
they got the idea to do that because I wasn't expecting that kind of thing. It's like it's just Ryan Reynolds looking normal with like a wig on.
Yeah.
And he has like a different kind of looking like actual.
It's a very
like,
slick suit. Like,
yeah, it's a very like X-Men Apocalypse looking.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a great way to
like,
put it.
Really
yeah.
comic booky and like again, he's just like
A little over-designed almost.
Yeah. The dog pool's ugly.
It's appropriately ugly,
that is an
which
ugly
was pretty
fucking
funny.
dog.
I do think the Deadpool
I
core
wonder
as a whole
why
was
they
fine.
decided to do that.
I think they already probably had the idea that they were doing the Deadpool core, and then they literally talked about how they saw the dog in a magazine voted like the most ugly dog, and they were probably
just
like,
gonna do that.
We're gonna use this one, yeah, because I don't know what Dogpool looks like in the comic, but it was funny. We never got a reveal of Lady Deadpool, which a lot of people called.
It's Blake Lively.
Oh well, yeah. I'm sorry, like face reveal. I should
Yeah,
say.
no, I'm kind of glad they didn't do it.
Yeah.
I feel like, again, restraint.
Yeah.
Weird kind of like a moment where like Deadpool, the actual Deadpool, is killing Lady Deadpool. Would have just been funny because he's killing Blake Lively, and they even make a Blake Lively reference. Mm-hmm. I forget. I think he's like shoved something up his ass. He's like, "Don't tell Blake." Yeah, yeah, and like I you know what? I actually didn't really care about that Deadpool core moment. It was just kind of
fine.
Like I didn't really think anything like oh, that was great, but like it is just like again restraint, just a bunch of random Deadpools, like not like a like oh like here's this Deadpool from this thing, and they like give him a moment,
right.
and like they don't really do that. Like they give like the kid Deadpool like just a second, but like it's just random.
And it works very well, like in the context of the moment.
Yeah, and like again, not even giving Lady Deadpool like she gets killed like in the montage.
There's
where,
not even.
Like a Prayer is playing for Madonna, and then that song has been stuck in my head. And it, again, give breathing news life into that song, even though it was a great song before this movie.
You know what that song's about, right?
No.
It's about a blowjob.
Always is.
It really is.
Always is.
But yeah, I thought that action scene in general was fine. It didn't blow me away either, really, because it just felt like there was almost so much going on.
There was so much going on.
I do think that there does get to be an issue with some of the action in this when it's like the super like wide lens stuff like that. When they first attack the Ant-Man head fortress, it felt a little like I was getting lost in the sauce there for a moment because it was all shaking and like you're looking around. I'm like, all right, let's rein it in, and they do.
This movie, I think, like I don't think I'm going to, but like I would go rewatch and be like, yeah, I would be down for that because again, like those action scenes, you get to look at them kind of differently and hear the jokes again, and maybe like one you didn't hear, the first time you went, and you're hearing the second time, and the jokes probably are gonna hit just as good as they did the
things
first
you didn't
time.
even check. And, like, catch the first
There's
time.
a lot going on in this movie. But like in certain ways, it's just again when you're in a theater and like we got everyone laughing and cheering at a few moments. It is kind of hard to take everything in necessarily. So yeah, I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine could totally go for a rewatch.
Absolutely.
And we were talking about the end credit scene. The end credit scene is. We kind of talked about Johnny Storm getting killed, and like Deadpool like says that he says this like
these
totally
awful things.
outlandish thing that you could never see Chris Evans saying, and then Chris Evans he's like, you guys really think I got fucking Johnny Storm killed? Where here's the proof, and they show you the footage of like him saying all those awful things, and it's like, dude, I love Chris Evans and how he's just totally the opposite of Captain America in like every role he's been in since.
Well, and I think that's again just works so perfectly.
Yeah,
like
very funny, and it's just like no like MCU stuff, no Deadpool will
he's
return.
Almost got the Bronx going.
No
too.
Wolverine will return.
For sure.
Just like done, see ya, get the fuck out of here, kind of thing. And again restraint.
It's
going in the blurb.
I never would have thought that it would have truly been this restrained. And I do think there is another plot point I actually really enjoyed when it came to what's his girlfriend's name? Vanessa,
yeah.
This idea
Miranda
that she
Bacher.
kind of left him because he's just so down,
Deadpool?
basically. No, because he
Oh, right.
the idea is that he stops because he just doesn't find purpose in it anymore because he can't be an Avenger. And she's like, well, you're just kind of like, you're not you anymore. You know what I mean?
I was looking through Letterboxd reviews, and I saw somebody mention that they thought it was pretty weird that they didn't give Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead a moment at the end. Because they are two integral characters to Deadpool 1 and 2.
Sure.
Like, obviously, like, Yukiko, like, gets her, like, hi, Yukiko. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, like, I'm like, yeah, I would kind of agree. Because they are the Deadpool characters, especially, like, you know, the superhero characters that go alongside him.
Right.
Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I just don't. Yeah, I was like, yeah, they probably could have do for a moment that isn't just like, hey, you know, we're back.
That.
Yeah. What else?
I think
Anything
that's
else?
kind of it. We talked
Yeah.
about Cassandra. We talked about the TVA a little bit. Yeah, so
I
the
was
whole
gonna
thing
say,
that's going
what
on
was
there.
the girl who came back from Loki? Like, that was cool.
Oh, the one head. I can't remember her name. She was like
Yeah, the
one of
black
the TVA. She runs it now, I think is the
Right.
idea.
Yeah. I did like the fact that, like, when they were talking about Alioth, Cassandra Nova was talking about Alioth, and Loki's like, "Oh, you mean
Alioth from
Lo-
season 2,
Lo-
episode 1 of Loki or whatever. Yeah,
Loki season 1, episode 5. Yeah,
it was really funny.
yeah.
That was good.
Oh, I think I was talking about. Did I talk about the fact it is not being for normies and the fact that, like, I don't think, like, okay. I think I began to talk about that point, but maybe I didn't elaborate. Did I mention the fact that, like, I don't think a lot of people are going to get some of the jokes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did.
Well, and
Yeah.
like jokes in what respect of like the
Oh,
like,
here's
the
Elektra.
deep cut-
Do you remember Elektra?
Oh, that's
like,
not that's more of a cameo, yeah. And I think that's why.
But, like, I think it's important to, like, kind of understand, like, a kid, I mean, like, a young, I'll say 10 to 20-year-old might not get all those jokes.
I don't think it's
might
integral.
not understand who Pyro is.
Right.
Or Juggernaut. And, like, again, like, because they just weren't alive for those movies, I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine is really, like, a movie targeted towards our generation, towards the kids who grew up with the shitty Marvel movies and have grown up through the MCU and have. You don't need to watch Loki for this show or the rest of the MCU movies, but you do need to watch Deadpool 1 and 2. I think that's pretty important. But again, like,
to be honest, I don't even really think you do. Like, I feel like this is a very much a self-contained story in a few different ways. I do think the first one, though, rewatching it recently, 2 nights ago before I watched Deadpool, it's very well handled and even kind of gruesome when he has his first change into Deadpool and, like, how his skin, like, melts or whatever. It's harrowing. Much more serious than I honestly remembered.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I was very interested in that. By the way, I made this joke, too, also. Deadpool 1 handles a cancer subplot more earnestly than Thor: Love and Thunder. I just thought that was funny. But I don't know. I think that this does exist pretty well.
That's so fucked.
It's so fucked up. I do think it works very well on its own. I don't think knowing who those cameos are specifically is integral. I just think you need to know that it's Elektra and Blade.
I feel like you're just kind
I
of.
think it gives you an elevation.
You're kind of missing out on the joke.
I think that there's an extra layer to them just being there that you do miss out on because you didn't grow up.
Oh,
with that.
by the
That's
way, so Scarlet Witch's, like, visage, like, got thrown into the void.
what do you mean? I'm confused.
Remember when they go to that house where X-23 picks them up in the car and then drives them back?
Yeah.
When they get to that house, the first shot it's Scarlet Witch.
Oh, I missed
it's like
it.
the block from the Multiverse of Madness.
right.
Like, that's in the temple.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was like, what
That's
the
interesting.
fuck? I was like,
I
is
totally
Scarlet
missed
Witch
that.
gonna come back?
Yeah, it is interesting because I do remember Kevin Feige, and I feel like he's
There are
almost
a lot
trolling-
of other set pieces, like, in the void. It's like, what are the pyramids supposed to be? Is that like the apocalypse? Like, pyramids? Like, is that what that's supposed to be? Like, what is this?
See, I think they're just pieces of, like, destroyed worlds is the
Yeah.
idea. That's just
Yeah.
kind of how I took it, but
Right.
I do get what you
There
mean.
were, like,
It's interesting.
ships and shit I was trying to make out. Like, there looked like there was, like, a Milano down.
There was. It was, like, downed.
Yeah, and I was talking to you. I'm like, what's the Ant-Man thing? And you were thinking it was like an Old Man Logan reference.
I think it's an Old Man Logan or World War Hulk reference because I'm pretty confident when he goes to see the Hulk, that, like, Hulk family, they're living inside Ant-Man's skull or something like that.
I've read that comic. I don't really remember that. I remember the Hulk family.
Then it
but-
might be World War Hulk, to
Anyway,
be honest.
I interrupted you.
No, you're good. I think that's really kind of it for me. I'm trying to think of anything else that we've missed.
Yeah, I mean, so we haven't talked about Marvel since Echo.
Yep.
And I think the next time we're going to do it is Captain America Brave New World, which is going to be interesting because we've had, Winter Soldier is like one of our favorite Marvel movies, and Falcon and Winter Soldier has, I feel like, become a very forgettable MCU show.
I think it's one of the more forgettables for sure.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Are we going to lean towards more of that forgettable, or are we going to have one of the best MCU movies ever? Because I think Winter Soldier is one of them.
Right. I don't know if we'll be getting the best MCU movie ever. I just hope it's a good movie.
Right, but like it's in the same tone of like the spy, espionage, political drama, especially, like with, like Ross is getting assassinated.
Right.
We have Isaiah Bradley doing that shit. I think this movie is going to be really political, and I'm down for that. I'm actually really down for like getting really political because the MCU, in terms of like not
as political as Winter Soldier gets, you're saying, like in that respect,
right? Like or like doing some like deep state kind of shit,
right.
and like not like actual like real world politics, but like exploring the political nature of the MCU, which Falcon and Winter Soldier and Secret Invasion like do, but then it gets to the end, and really Captain America's like, everyone just get along. And you, Senator.
Why can't you just think of the right thing and do the right thing? And you, why don't you listen to him saying about the right thing?
Senator.
It is a very weird ending to that show. Senator. I don't know, man. And it has a $375 million budget already.
Yeah, so the record it broke was Deadpool and Wolverine broke the record for opening night of an R-rated movie.
Yeah.
And I think I'll break it again. What was the last wasn't there an R-rated movie that was breaking records recently, like in the last 5 years?
Maybe The Terrifier, but that was because that was such a small budgeted film. I
don't think so.
I do think it was.
I remember it being a bigger film. Like Oppenheimer and Barbie obviously were not R-rated.
Right.
Wait, was Oppenheimer R?
I think Oppenheimer might have been R.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's nudity.
So yeah, it's only ups for the Deadpool franchise. So Deadpool 1 opening Thursday night preview. We'll go through these really quick. 12.7 million for the first Deadpool. This is for the Thursday opening night.
Yeah.
Deadpool 2, 18.6 million. So that did do better. Deadpool and Wolverine were at a crisp 38.6. So that's double.
And Marvel
almost double.
And that might have something to do with it being on Marvel's end, probably a little bit. Not being a Fox thing.
Oh, absolutely. See, I actually don't think so, because like we were talking about with Madam Web, people think like Madam Web's part of the MCU,
right?
So I think that kind of helps everyone. What did Feige say
recently that somebody thought he did something?
Oh, and they were like, "Congrats on Blue Beetle," and he was like, "That's not me."
Right,
but
yeah. There's so much, exactly. It's getting lost in the sauce. I am interested to see like when we'll see Deadpool again. I think that is a really interesting question.
I agree,
and I just hope
I think we will. But it's just when.
Obviously, Secret Wars, whenever that happens. But again, that might be 4 years away. We still don't know what's going on with Kang. There's a lot of questions. Again, the MCU is still a shit show right now. We don't really know what's going on with any of it. But again, I'm kind of glad that Deadpool and Wolverine didn't do that, because I think it would have fucked the movie up.
It just needed. It was its own thing, and they made a fantastic movie, and that's all I want anymore. Right. Just focus on what's the food that's on your plate. But to speak to like why when we were talking about why this is doing so much better, I do think, like you said earlier, it is the wait thing. I think we've been waiting. Like, people have not had a Deadpool movie since
2018.
2018. That's a long time. That's a long time for a sequel.
That's like 6.5 years.
So I think people, and on top of that, Hugh Jackman's back. That's a big pull part of it, I'm sure. So I think there's a few different kind of reasons that are piling on top of each other that really gave this thing a major boost. And it's cool to see. And I think it's well-deserved. Yeah. This doesn't feel like a cheap cash grab type of film. Yeah. It felt like a one that they were like, we want to make a movie and we're going to do it.
But we can't reference and do cocaine.
No, I mean, we'll reference cocaine, but we won't do cocaine.
We can't do cocaine.
Yeah.
That's funny. Like, that's what he brought up like a few times.
It's funny.
That, like, they couldn't do, which I assume was definitely real. That they couldn't show cocaine.
Like, or even anyone doing it. I do think the one line from,
but they didn't mention. No, did they say cocaine?
They were. I don't know if he says cocaine. He's like, we can't do, like, because they have the whole back and forth.
The angel dust.
And all that stuff. But
you want to build a snowman? Yeah.
He's like, yes, but we can't. Yeah. Good stuff. Grand stuff all around. And I think that makes them be even a bit more funny in some respects, because they have to think of ways around these limitations that have been placed on them in certain respects. But I don't think there were that many limitations put on them at all.
Restraint.
They restrain themselves, and that's what I love to see. Anyway, Scooch, anything else on Deadpool and Wolverine? That's
Get
it.
the hell out of here.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all so much for watching with us. If you've been with us live on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network, we really appreciate your time. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Delco Nerd Network on your platform of choice. We have a Discord page, a Facebook page, I should say, a Discord channel. We are on all the social medias as well, at Delco Nerds on basically everything. You can email us your comments, questions, or concerns to delconerds@gmail.com. We're happy to get back to you. You can find all this information on our website, delconerdnetwork.com. For Gooch, I've been Trio. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy, and we will see you next time.
Right.